We didn't get the advert in TMX or whatever, but we'll get started anyway. We're going to have a break about 1 o'clock for chips and sandwiches. Well, here we are again for another post-Christmas get-together of the Cumbria Classic Club. And our guest speaker this year is Mark Fulton from Cockermouth, former professional motocrosser, top 35 rider, Grand Prix rider, works rider, European champion, Scottish champion 3 times, Northern Centre champion, and somebody who has had a bike named after them. There's not many people can say that, and it was a Kawasaki A7, wasn't it, Mark?
It was that.
Yeah, and it was the Mark Fulton replica. So not many folk can say that in the same vein as the Mikkola replica of the Husky in 1975 after Heikki Mikkola won the World Championship in 74. So Mark's in sort of similar vein to that, so not many folk have had a bike named after them. Now Mark's from a motorcycling family. His dad, Rocky Fulton, was a well-known local road racer. So what sort of bikes was he riding Gold Stars or Max Nortons, or what would he be? Ah, yeah, up for on.
Yeah, he was on, when I was a kid he was racing Gold Stars and AGS's.
Did you go to meetings with him, or?
No.
No. So where was he riding at places like Silleth or what?
Yeah, Silleth with people like Jack Horseman.
Oh, yeah.
Alton Park. He used to do Manx Island Man and that. But I was just a bit on the young side.
Yeah.
He used to disappear with his road racing side of it.
So those meetings at Silleth, I don't know where everybody used to go, but they were on the aerodrome there, and they had those, Jack Horseman used to run them, and he was a guy in a wheelchair, wasn't he? And he'd had a bad accident or something, and but they were well-run meetings. You used to get like 10,000 people there, and these aircraft hangars were full of chickens, and they used to put pop music into the aircraft hangar to keep the chickens happy because of the noise of the bikes going around. Yeah, there were quite good meetings. I think Neil Mackenzie was the champion there at one time, and I think they ran till about early 80s. I used to go, and I think 66 was the first time I went, and there was George Buchan, Scotsman, and on Manx Norton, and there was Selwyn Griffiths, the Welshman, on a G50 matchless, and they were the stars at the time. And there was a guy, I don't really remember, but there was a guy called Owen Greenwood who used to have it was in the sidecars, but it was really a car, and it was a Mini Cooper engine in this monocoque framework chassis thing he'd made, and it was 4 wheels on it. So he had 2 wheels at the front, and it wasn't really a sidecar at all, how he got around the rules, and he had 2 wheels at the back together, and that managed to get him into, he managed to get around the sidecar rules, because he was beating everybody on this. And by the time I went, he got a really bad reputation, because they didn't think it was a proper sidecar. Nobody really thought he should be racing it. He was beating all world champions on these BMWs, Max Doibel and Scheidegger and everybody on this bloody thing that was really a mini car. And when he went to got to Silleth, everybody booed him. I mean, they were booing like hell. I mean, it was ridiculous, really, because he dominated the sport for about 2 years, and then everybody got sick of him, and he sold the bike. And he wasn't that great a sidecar racer. He'd done solos as well. He was from Leicestershire, and his passenger was a fellow called Terry Fairbrother. But they were good mechanics, and they built this thing that absolutely dominated sidecar racing in this country. And the one year, I think that was 66 as well, they went to Barber Hill Climb, quite near here, and they broke the record there as well. He was breaking records everywhere, this Owen Greenwood, but he didn't make him popular at all. In the end, he just backed out the whole thing, and I think he just went back to an ordinary unit after the ordinary sidecar outfit after that.
Can I just come in there?
Yeah.
He turned that over at Castle Combe in about 1967. That Mini Cooper sidecar outfit it was, and the reason he got into the sidecar class on it is that the sidecars had to have just I think they were allowed 3 tracks, but because you've got 2 front wheels on the front, That's one track. And he had a double wheel on the back, didn't he?
Yeah, there was 2 wheels at the back. They were right together though.
Right together.
Yeah, but you couldn't have to go around corners with it.
Yeah, that was good enough for the regulations at the time.
Yeah, and he had a Mini Cooper S engine in it.
Yeah.
See, the others were just on these. A lot of them were 500s. These Boxer BMWs or some 650 twin BSAs or whatever. When they couldn't compete with this thing, it was producing. It was a lot bigger engine, producing a lot more.
He turned it over at Castle.
Yeah.
I remember being there. I saw it.
But it would take a bit of turning over, I would have thought, really, because it was, got these 2 wide wheels set at the front, but
yeah, well,
he likely did. But he was completely dominating, but it didn't make him very popular, did he? No. And if anybody wants to just join in, just shout up, because we haven't got Bill here today. We usually have Bill sitting here at the top table as well. And he's to get stories out the guest, but Michael will have to just come up with it himself. I think he's had to go to a wedding at Loughborough, I think it is, and he apparently didn't know he was going to it. So a week ago he was coming, and now he's.
Own, is it?
By job he didn't know about it.
Built.
So we usually have him up here, but we'll have to battle on our own. So Jack Horsman ran these meetings at Silliff, and he had a shop in Carlisle that was taken over by Lawson's, wasn't it? Steve Lawson. It was a Kawasaki off-road dealer on London Road, just down from the sex shop. And no, but I went in there. So and he sold out to Steve Lawson, and then there was and Simon worked there, but of course Simon Lawson had this terrible accident when he was practicing. They had a track at the house, did the farm at Maryport, didn't they? And
yeah, he done it on a double jump down there.
did the engine stop then?
He did run, I think, and went like that with him. But it was a bit scary, that double jump down at Simon's, and I'm not the best on the double jump front, but I've been down there practising with him when he was down there.
Right.
It was devastating news when he got told what had happened.
And he was paralysed from the chest down.
Yeah.
And they actually got him back on a motocross after that, didn't they? A few years later, made a framework or whatever. And
yeah, was that a Brompton? Did he do all that?
it could have been, yeah. But they got him back on a 2-wheel bike, and he managed to ride. And then he packed in that, and he'd be looking for something else to do. And he ended up doing this wheelchair racing, which, I mean, he's very successful. I mean, the guy who's has got all the publicity is a Londoner, of course, David Weir. But I mean, 2 or 3 years ago, Simon was beating him regularly. But he just hasn't got the, he won the Great North Run recently, and you see him round at Maryport, around those roads, bombing along, and I mean, the effort he puts into it's unbelievable. And he's become sort of quite an ambassador for our area, really.
He's, I think his motocrossing's coming through because, as you know, it isn't an easy sport to get involved with. You've got to be a bit selfish along the lines, and I think that's coming through with Simon in his chair racing, that he's been on the motocross, he knows what's needed to get to the top, and good luck to him.
Yeah, he's got that determination, hasn't he?
Excellent.
Yeah, so we just thought he could, get an Olympic medal or something like that, but he's a rather better ambassador for our, he's on board of TV quite a lot. He's a rather better ambassador for the area than our ambassador for Cockermouth, which is Ben Stokes. The England cricketer who isn't really a particularly good ambassador at the moment.
Ben sups in the pub where I work now. When he comes back, he does like a beer and a bit of a boisterous, should we say, when he's out.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know people that taught him at Cockermouth School, and he spent most of his time in detention. It's just an absolute pain in the neck, but of course he's got that, people like Ian Botham in cricket and that, they all think he's great because he's got that sort of total belief in himself.
Well, he's best cricketer in the world at the moment, I think.
Yeah, he's done it, and you see stuff about him. I know I used to play cricket at Cockermouth Cricket Club, and the old boys down there, nobody could stand him actually, didn't really like him. And he's a big head, and if you look at there's some film comes on local TV of him playing when he was about 13. He doesn't really look that good, but of course he's done it, and he's got that belief in himself, and he's going to, I mean, it was about 4 years ago, I'm talking about cricket here, but 4 years ago he was in the Ashes series, the last one down in Australia. I mean, the first time he played, he was, you know, he was standing toe to toe with these Aussie bowlers and taking them on, and he was going to, it was his first test just about, he got such confidence and belief in himself. And of course that's got him through, you see.
Yeah, he's done really well, hasn't he?
He's done incredibly well, but of course he's, you know, he got banned for, well, he had to go to anger management courses, but he smashed his fist into the lockers or something. Broke his wrist.
Yeah.
And he's been in heaps of trouble, and now he's in fairly big trouble at the moment.
I think the Aussies was pleased he didn't tour.
But as for his cricket, I mean, he's fantastic. He's probably the best player in the world at the moment, but he just can't control his temper really.
He'll get that sorted, I think.
Yeah. Right, we'll go back to the schoolboy scene then. So your dad would know Eddie Crooks, because Eddie Crooks at Barrow was like a road racer, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So he would get you. So it would be a connection there with. Because you went to Suzuki's, weren't you?
I was just on basically road come trail bikes chopped up with paid tin lids on when I started.
Right, they were like TS was the trail bike range, wasn't it, for Suzuki's?
We were just, I think Dad just made sort of like bits of motocross bikes up from the start, and then seeing how I was on them with my brother and my sister, we all had one, Honda 50s.
Alright.
And then we got into racing. We had to go down to Barra, as Mr. Cowell will know, with Paul and them, Bircher, Moore. That's where the schoolboy racing was them days. And then, luckily enough, I got Dad bought us a new one off Eddie Crooks. The Suzuki 100 Rising Sun one.
It'd been early RM.
That was one of the first RMs, yeah.
The one with the rising, that was the 75 ones, weren't they?
With 75, took seat off because I got short in the leg, made a bit of a seat up 2 inch or something, 3 inch. And that was when it all basically started off. We used to go down to Barra, Millen, racing with all them lads down there. And then started to have to go farther afield looking for the sort of like Middlewich boys or Cheshire boys down there, looking for a bit of opposition now and again, just to see how you were coming along. And then it just snowballed from there really. I was with Eddie Crooks most of my schoolboy career, helping us out. And then I was lucky enough, we got a Kawasaki ride, 79 I think.
Who was that for?
With Direct, was it not with Alec?
It was with Alec, yeah.
Alec Wright, yeah. You see, Alec, well...
He was a flyboy, he bought all the best riders up ready to win next year, that's what he done. So, I think 78 I was on a blue Eddie Crooks Suzuki, and I won the British Tour Day Championship at Dursley in Gloucester. It was a mud bath, and Alec had David Jones there. Gary Evans was a year older than me, he won the experts, I won the seniors. David Jones Kawasaki rider was second, and Jason Bonham was riding then. John Bonham's son, he was in the same team.
Kawasaki. You know Jason Bonham?
Yeah.
The drummer off the Led Zeppelin, yeah.
He was, well, the following year he used to do a bit of riding with him down at his house, but that's another story. But 78 I was lucky enough to win. That was my first senior British tag. And then Alec offers a good deal to go to Kawasaki the next year from Graham Beamish. So I had talks with both of them at Dirt Bike Show. Graham Beamish's was a good offer, but Alec's was better, so Kawasaki was a bit unknown because I'd been on Suzuki's all my career. But it was, at them days, it was too good offer to turn down, so I had to take it. So it was basically going until I think it was about 15, 16, but all my racing was paid for.
Yes,
Plus,
professional
yeah,
rider.
Well, it was starting to get that way, and everything was laid on by Uncle Alec, even though the bike wasn't really up to it. It wasn't quick enough. So I think we kept tuning it up, barrels, pipes and everything, and I kept twining. Because Andy Nichols was in there as well. There was me, Andy Nichols, Kelvin Tate, Speedway boy. He had 3 of the best riders in there. Tony McNeice was Suzuki. And you had people like Mervyn Anstey. Who else was in? Kurt Nichols in the seniors. He was a year behind me, but he had the works 125 Kawasaki water cooled, first one in the country. So he had the best gear really in the seniors to win that, but as it panned out that year, he didn't win it, but he had the best bike. The water cooled one was the first one in the country. And then that year, Andy Nichols, what did he win? Andy Nichols won the ACU.
Championship, didn't he?
Well,
you broke your wrist, didn't you?
I broke my wrist in the ACU one, so I finished top 6 in that, I can't remember. Andy Nichols won it. And Andy Nichols was near Slough where Kawasaki was. And I was at Cockmouth in Cumbria most of the time, so he used to get most of the, should we say, good gear to do the job. And then Andy Nichols won the ACU. I come back to fitness and I won the British 2-day. So it all went down to the champions at Golden Barn at Brighton, which I think Tony McNeice was riding for Graham Beamish then. He'd been there a week on his Suzuki, practising on the track, water-cooled Suzuki. The Kawasaki's was still air-cooled, the A6. And it was alright, my bike, but it wasn't one of the quick ones. The KTMs was quick, Mervyn Anstey and them, and Chris Sear. Anyhow, that was me and Andy Nichols won each, and we went to the champions. He'd had his A7 Kawasaki for a week practising down there. Me and Kelvin Tate got our bikes dropped off right in front of everybody at the meeting.
Helicopter, wasn't it?
Well, dropped them out of the crates, built them up right in front of everybody, and we raced them. And as I say, I was lucky enough to, I won all 6 races that weekend, 3 on the Saturday, 3 on Sunday, on the A7. That's why the sort of like said it was a Mark Fulton replica.
Yeah.
But Andy Nichols he was in the same team, but we had the rivalry. Kelvin Tate was just that little bit back from me and Andy, really. No, it was a good time then, and the A7 bike was totally different to the A6, a lot more power, but it was still air-cooled. Suzuki's was water-cooled, Yamaha's was water-cooled, Kevin Froud was on one of them. I was lucky enough to win the champions at Golden Barn, Suzuki's own track, which made it all the better for me. And then it was onwards and upwards into the men, or the MCA. That's what Alec Wright channels into the MCA to follow Dave Thorpe and Gary Evans through that channel.
Just going back to the schoolboys thing, you'd start in 72.
72.
Yeah, it's quite a long time ago, isn't it?
Yeah. It's still a long time ago, yeah.
And in Scotland at that time, there was still, I mean, what were I would say by 72, 73, the schoolboys thing was starting to get going, wasn't it?
We were going to Scotland on the 100 Suzuki, and Billy Edwards and Alistair Dick and all them was riding up there. But what I have to say is, when I was riding schoolboys, and what I find now is when I go to the meeting and watch schoolboys, the tracks are all as flat as motorways. When I was riding these road bikes come scramblers, you were riding around after people like Norman Barrett, John Lees, John Banks. The tracks was as rough as, and there was no, they didn't
proper scrambling.
I think that's why the schoolboys don't make it now. A lot of them didn't make it now. They all want motorways for tracks. But scrambling, in my eyes, if the track's rough, it's rough. You ride.
It's a scramble.
That's what it is.
It's a scramble, isn't it?
I think it lost its way a little bit on motocross. But in them days, the track was like your Barfield, the Fell Green at Bootle, they were proper motocross tracks. And well, I just think it made it a better rider if you just got on with it, and you know, you had to be physically fit as you got better, but the tracks was rough, and that's the way it was.
In Scotland, I mean, I think in '73 time, I think there's a lad called Fergus Moody who rides with us in the Scottish Classic Club, and they were actually racing bantams at that point, BSA bantams, souped up ones, but still on bantams. And I think then there was '73 time, sort of Noyce was coming through one day, they were in the schoolboy scene, and Hudson about 1973, and they were riding those red Rickman Zundaps, you remember those?
They were proper motocross bikes and
Zundaps,
well before the time, well before anything I sat on. Jeff Hogg had one at Egerman, so
he had one.
He had one. They were proper motocross bikes.
There's a lad who I lived in Embleton Village just outside Cockmouth. There was a lad, Jeff McMaster, he had one, but he used to scramble, but he used to trundle around at the back, but they looked like a smart bike though.
He had a Rickman when I was really young, a red Rickman.
Aye, Rickman Zundat, wasn't he? Aye, he was sitting in the garage, but I think he was a bit of a back man. But he had a go, didn't he? He had a go, Jeff, yeah. And but you see, then the Suzuki got involved, and they were producing, I mean, they took over, didn't the RMs? You're talking about the TS's and stuff like that, which was really trail bikes. Then proper motocrossers, RMs came on the scene, didn't they? I mean, prior to that, they'd had the Suzuki. I mean, they were bringing out cheaper bikes, but they maybe weren't as competitive prior to the RMs. They had these TMs, which was, you know, they hired Joel Robert and Gabos to win these world titles. And Joel Robert was winning then Da Costa, and then they had to bring a bike out to capitalise on it, and they were selling a lot in America, but there were these blooming TM 250s, and the infamous TM 400, the orange ones, the very early ones, the Cyclone, which was like, I mean, it's the most scary bike that's ever been built, I think.
Paul Orrit, I remember being a kid watching Paul Orrit on one of them.
He had one, did it? Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I can remember in '71 at Baston's where Norman Barrow had one, and I looked at the results, and Norman Barrow must have been able to ride anything, and he could keep anything going because he was a good mechanic, and his results were pretty good on them. So you'd be going along the A66 out of Cockermouth, and these things look at the motorway, and there's these lads bombing around on these bikes right next to the road. It was quite good, really.
Yeah, Nevertell's basically the best track where we got. For a lot of years, you can ride down there when the weather's been crap all week. I suppose Paul will have Avrig that you can ride on when it's wet and stuff like that, but we're out my way, we're short of a few good tracks, but there seems to be more popping up now, so...
Yeah, well, we've got this, we're going to run a Scottish Classic meeting at, remember Brownrigg fell at Penrith there, Plumpton. We've got a track near there now, a field anyway, and it's right at the back of the old Brownrigg track. It's just across the road, and that is going to be a really good track. It's on a big hillside, and it's sandy ground, so it'll take a bit of rain. And you know, Helen and Robin, you know how good it's going to be, isn't it? We're just going to run a Scottish Classic meeting there next year and see how it goes. But it's got good access to it with like a concrete road in and out, so you can have a two-way system. And it's a brilliant piece of land. We really found a good one there, I think. So going up where we got to, so that's Bill on Mako's in 85, 86, and then did you go back to Kawasaki's, didn't you?
Yeah, I was lucky enough. Alec come to the rescue again, should we say, and he got us a ride, got bike and bits, and some money for some fuel to do the Scottish Championships for Mickey Oates, 1987.
That's a big Glasgow deal, isn't it?
Yeah, he put us,
motorcycles.
I'd never done Scottish Championship before that, and he said, listen, I'll give you a bike and bits and some expenses. Will you go and do Scottish Championships for us, Mark? And I said, yeah, no problem. And I was lucky enough, I was on a bonus scheme there. If I won the Scottish Championship, I got a little backhander, which I could put into me sort of
looking
contract.
After you again, then,
looking after us again, and that was best improvement in my career for 4 years, I thought, because I was back on decent bikes.
You'd had a bit of a deal with I don't know whether many of you know John Fleming. You'd had a deal with him, had you? That was at the Kajivas.
That was tied in with the Kajiva job, and that didn't come off. I read that a couple of times and knew that it wasn't going to be good enough to do what I wanted to do on it. So,
because John Fleming, who was involved with the Scottish Classic Club and Drumlanrig Castle meet that was on this year, coming up next year, his dad Bill Fleming had a big dealership. They were the biggest bike shop in Scotland, I think. Bill Fleming, and I think that, I don't know whether it was his dad or a relative had won the Pearls, and that's why they've got this shop. And it was somebody was telling me recently, it was a big dealership, had all the road bikes and everything, and all the dealerships, the Japanese dealerships, and but I think in the end his dad, I think this is right, his dad found religion and packed it, sold all the shops, and that was the end of it. This is John Fleming that's involved with the Scottish Club. Yeah, I think that's what I've been told anyway, just an aside. So we're back on, so Kawasaki's again. Just, winning in Scotland. But I've just got a thing here from 1987 British 250 Championships. So you're winning in Scotland in 87, 88, 89, weren't you? You were a Scottish champion then.
yeah.
But in the British Championships, in 87 you'd be on a Kawasaki and you were 4th overall.
Yeah.
And if you look at, this is the top 6 here, British Championships 87, 250 British Championship. First was Jeremy Watley, second was Rob Herring, another good rider, third was Greg Hanson on a Kawasaki, fourth was Mark on a Kawasaki, fifth was Mark Banks, John Banks' son, and I've read somewhere he saying how much money he could make decent money in British Championship stuff. The Mark Banks, once read he was on like 40,000 a year for about that time, wasn't he?
He had plenty of money in though. It's short of a bobber too. Probably his dad was paying that.
Yeah, I think they owned most of Bury St Edmunds, didn't they, the Maxes, and they're into Suzuki car dealerships, not the car dealerships.
Money,
a lot of money, yeah. And in sixth place was Jared Smith.
Yeah.
There's been quite a lot on these Facebook sites about Awesome, I used to call himself Awesome, or somebody called him Awesome, and there's been a thing about where's he been, but you'll know Jared Smith.
I know Jared, I see him, a couple of times a year I see him at talk show.
And he was a good rider, he was second in British Championships, I think he was 8th in World Championships one year, and he was pretty big,
sort just a machine again, wasn't he? Fitness.
And he broke his back, but then he came good again after that, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he was a bodybuilder type person, wasn't he? And he used to write an article in one of the monthly magazines. There was a fella called, I don't know which of the monthlies it was, but it wasn't Dirt Bike Rider. There was a fella called Dickie Dye who'd written one for a while. It was quite funny, amusing stuff. And then Jared Smith took over, write this monthly article. It was really quite funny stuff anyway. A real character, and I think he'd come from Gisborne in North Yorkshire, hadn't he?
He did, he lives at...
Where's he live now?
He lives at... Troutbeck, near Ullswater now. He's on his girlfriend's family have the boats on Ullswater Lake. So
right.
He organises all that. You always see him when you go past, he's got a big cowboy hat on. So you can always spot him when you're driving along.
Good lad.
He's still a character though.
The Sowerbys from Penrith area was saying how you still saw him about, whatever. And they were saying some stunts he'd done it, I don't know what he was doing. They went trail riding with something. He sounded like something Evel Knievel would have done, It's absolutely unbelievable. But so that's how competitive it was in the 80s, and even not at World Championship level, even in British Championship
Well,
level.
Andy Nichols, just looking down there where he would be, he should have been in him on that as well. He was on Team Kawasaki, but there was me, Greg Hanson and him.
All right. What about Rob Herring? He was a good rider.
He was a good guy. Yeah.
And he didn't make it at World Championship level, but he was
won races.
Natural, talented rider.
He could crash and hurt himself at any time, but he was a good. I don't think he was as good as Watley.
No, a really naturally talented. Would you say with yourself you were naturally?
I am more natural than
taught, really.
Yeah. Skill.
Yeah.
That was better if it's tricky conditions for me.
Neat sort of riding.
I always.
But they're pretty done well at our events anyway. And he had Jamie Law. Well, Barry Turnbull's the guy that on.
He won the National Series this year.
Yeah, very good. And he's in his mid-30s, is he?
Yeah, he's 36 now.
Yeah, and we had the Jamie Law Road one at Sedbergh this time, and Jamie's like, he'll be late 20s, isn't he?
He's 30.
Is he 30? Yeah, well, I mean, he's still at the top in modern motocross, because in MX1, Jamie Law came 7th in MX1 British Championships this year. He was only about 2 points off being 6th, so I mean, he's still well up there.
He signed a contract to ride for a Pico again for 2018, and he's riding the 450 Yamaha for this next season.
It's on the Yamaha.
Yeah.
But he had a year off, didn't he? Because he was doing that proper job at Lidborough, wasn't he?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, but he's come back quite well. But the point I was making was that, I mean, you've got somebody who's a top 10 British Championship rider, and Mark in his mid-50s was giving them a real good run for the money. He had some good races at Sedbergh this year.
The Grassmaster.
Yeah, and Mark with that sort of neat style, and it was, he was giving them a good race. And I mean, Jamie's like at that level and a lot younger, so just must prove something. And when Mark came back to riding at Sedbergh a few years ago, you're on a Myco then, weren't you? Would it be a
Stuart? I rid one that Stuart Bland built.
Yeah.
And I rid one of Bill's. I borrowed one off Bill one year when I didn't have a bike.
Yeah.
It was a wet meeting, which suited me.
Did you not break your leg one year at Sedbergh? You did something, didn't you? Well, that back hill by the...
There's a long story with that, because I broke my ankle on the Wednesday before I come, so I was riding with a broken ankle.
Oh, so a good start then.
But I didn't really tell anybody after. So, and in the last race, I think I looped it, going up the back straight and broke the bloody good ankle. So when I hobbled off, I had 2 broken ankles that day.
Yeah, not going well.
And a beer barrel dropped it on Wednesday night and smashed it in 4 places when it fell off the wagon onto my foot. And I was riding at Sedbergh on the Sunday, so I squeezed the motocross boot on with a bit of painkillers in it. Because I didn't know it was broke, I just thought it was badly bruised.
Aye.
And done alright in the first 2 races, and then I looped it, and the last race got a rush of blood. Tried to pass Mr. Parker up the back straight instead of waiting.
It looked like he got 2 handful of throttle.
And then it looped out, and I thought, Christ, that hurt. When I picked it back up, I thought, bloody hell, my ankle's hurting here. And when alcohol 2 weeks later, when I went to hospital, I had 2 broken ankles. So it slowed us up a bit for a couple of weeks.
Could you say about, I know Bill's not here, I don't want to slag off Makos, but can you just say about how does the Mako compare to the Honda with those twin shock bikes? Does the Honda, the power not come in a bit more abruptly?
The Honda 500's more like...
Is it a 480 to start with?
Yeah, the 480.
These are Brian Wood's bikes.
Brian Woods sponsors me, the 480. I quite like the 480. A bit more sort of like rider friendly than the Honda 500, which has got a bit more grunt. But both 2 good bikes to ride. Stuart Bland built them. I'm happy with Blandy building them. I know him very well. He knows how I like them.
Because he used to ride around, he was from here, he used to ride, didn't he, Stuart Bland? And is he the chief mechanic at...
No, he's the team coordinator. He's just left this year, actually. I was thought he was going to be here today to sort of like have a bit of a crack with him and that, but he's the team coordinator for Paul Bird, ASP.
Right. Just go back to these, I mean, Jam, was it Steve Clitheroe did something to just smooth the power on those Hondas?
Yeah, he altered the porting of the barrels, yeah. But it's typical Honda of that time. They were always very strong at the bottom, mid-range strong, and then they used to just fall off a little bit at the top end. And Steve just altered the sort of characteristics of the motor and just smoothed the power range out, Well, another thing that we also did to him, we went down a couple of teeth on the rear sprocket as well, which just sort of softened, took that edge off him a little bit. But other than that, they're pretty stock.
How did the handle compare to the Myco? Because Myco's a legendary soft power and great handling.
I mean, I can't speak for Mark's bike that Stuart built, but all my bikes have been, the rear end is based on an 81 Mako. It's exactly the same geometry. I copied that because I thought, well, I've ridden a Mako and they just angle so very well, at that time, and they got it right. So I thought, well, why change something that's not broke? It was just a simple way to go. If you're going to copy something
I think Blandy done done something similar with
Yeah,
Debbie.
pretty
You've
much.
done something similar.
Yeah, we're all the same. Because we all sort of like
we all
talk together and that,
and,
you know.
you can't knock a makeover for handling.
No.
No.
You've got to aim for something that what they're set up like.
The Honda's more reliable. I don't know.
It's Honda. I mean,
Yeah, it's
how many
Honda.
generators, how many power washes, how many
Yeah.
motor mixers have got Honda engines on? It's Honda. It's cheating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The name says it all.
The quality's good on
Yeah,
that,
it is.
isn't
It is.
Yeah.
And the availability's there as well, you know, it's still there. You know, gearbox parts are getting a bit harder to get hold of. But
Just regarding the twin shock, I don't know why where they heard this, but you're not going. The British twin shock series, it's not going like pre-84 like we have in Scotland, is it? You're not. It's still twin shocks, is it?
still twin shock.
Because obviously bums on saddles in Scotland, we've had it a few years. It's just pre-84, so you know we don't. It's you know we're allowing like Andy Mallock's Armstrong and stuff like that.
I've got to say, I mean, I think the way that I've got, or I've managed to get the Honda set up now, providing you didn't have a disc brake on the front, I can't see that the monoshock bike would be any better than how I've got the twin shock bike set up. You know, I don't think there's a lot of difference in those early monoshocks. I mean, for me, the early monoshock, probably the Suzuki full float, was the best suspension system of that time. But other than that, I mean, if you look at like the Unitrack or ProLink or whatever, you know, I don't think there's a lot of difference.
I'm just mentioning Suzuki there. Is there? I don't want to be too controversial here, but what about these lads with these 125? Because they came to these Suzukis that came to Sedbergh. I mean, you know, are the water cooled ones?
Yeah, I suppose in a way, you know, I mean, at the national level, I mean, I'm on the eligibility committee. You know, there was 125 Yamaha was liquid cooled in '81, so I suppose it's in the sort of essence of it. You know what I mean? We've not. I mean, Sean McRae has run a twin shock bike with an '81 Suzuki engine in water cooled. Doesn't seem to be any faster than the Yamaha of that era, so we've let it run, you know.
So we let them, because we didn't know about them, they came to Sedbergh, and one of these young lads, there were young lads on
yeah,
the
there was a lot.
he got a prize
I
anyway.
think he was getting a payout off Mark just to keep Barry and busy, did he?
I mean, it was fairly flying on
It
it,
was
like,
going
but
well,
I didn't. We let them in, didn't we, Alan? But we didn't know really. I mean, they're supposed to be like works replicas from 1979 or something. I don't know exactly what they were, but I mean,
I don't think that was fitting. But each one of them, isn't it? You know, I mean, it's like with the national twin shock scene. As far as we're concerned, you know, it's got to have conventional forks, 2 rear shocks, drum brakes, air cooled, and it's got to be within the essence of it. You know, I mean, we've got lads turning up now with Zabel engines in a Mako, which you can go out and buy a brand new engine for about £8,000.
are those the ones that use inside car?
Yeah, and they've got hydraulic clutches, but you know, I mean, Barry's run, Alex Rackrow rode one of them for Dick Do, and Barry ran with him, and there was no real difference in power or anything like that. So
Talking about Alex Rack, he's a heck of a rider. I mean, but he didn't make it in British Championships, did he?
No,
He was top 10 though, wasn't he?
yeah.
Rod Spry was a mechanic for 1 year for him, and he didn't quite
go well. It didn't go well.
No, it didn't go well, but he seems, when you watch him, God, he's
I think he's super smooth. I think
Got
a lot of it's
ability.
down to if he's got somewhere to plug his air straighteners into on the race day.
He's all right.
Probably all right. But
Yeah.
if something doesn't just go right, you don't have that trouble, Mark, do you?
A long time ago.
But no, he's one of them. He can. You know, I've been at meetings at Bathensway where John Marsh has said, "I'll get Racky going," and he's walked up
No, I've seen him there. I
and he
thought
said
it was
to him, he
amazing.
said, "I'll give you £100 if you win this race," and he absolutely blitzed him, and he wasn't having a particularly good day. But for money, he'd just go out and go for it. So I don't know. It's just how they tick, innit? Some are just very consistent, but just off that top edge, and sometimes just show brilliance, like Mark was saying about, you know, Watley.
Yeah.
You know, back in the
Totally
day.
got one, the
What
one.
about Rick Defoe? Is he in the the next year?
He's going to. At the moment, I'm helping Barry with a bike that I'm going to help him build. But I'll have a bike free, and then if wants to ride. He's a good friend of mine. He's been IMBA champion. If he wishes to ride, then there'll be a bike there for him to ride. He might come and ride at Nostalgia. He likes grass, man.
Does he?
Yeah. He's a bit older as well.
Is
He's
he?
in his 40s.
We just go on to Mark's involvement with PBM, Paul Bird Motorsport. I mean, Paul Bird was a good rider around here, and he was Northern Centre champion one time. I remember he held the course record for the Barman Hill climb on I think it'd be a Honda motocross at Kawasaki. Yeah, I mean, he's a pretty good rider. Yeah, how did you get involved with him, or does it go back a long way?
It goes back when motocross years ago. He used to come across the Cockmouth when I was just a kid and he was a little bit younger than me. We used to train together and that. We've been mates ever since, through good times and bad times, I might say, but mostly good. And Birdie was a dab hand at motocrossing if he'd stuck in. He could have been a top flighter. He had the ability, just sort of like stuck into the training side of it that you needed to do.
So how did he get you? So what did he just ask you to come along and get involved with his team?
I was working, doing a bit of work on the chicken side for Frank Bird, and then Birdie said he was going on to World Superbikes 2008.
With Kawasaki?
With Kawasaki.
Because they had the works team, didn't they?
Yeah, he ran for 2 years, and I was one of the truck drivers driving the trucks all over Europe, setting it up. I like to think I knew where I was going a lot of the time, even though I maybe didn't, but no, we had 2 good years doing that. Just a bit too much time away from home as usual.
You didn't do the motor, because he did MotoGP, didn't he, for a few years?
Yeah, he played about MotoGP.
Yeah, I mean, they did well to compete at all in it. It was a Aprilia engine in it, wasn't it? It was his own. Yeah. He got somebody to build a frame or whatever. Yeah. And he did all right with it. But were you involved then?
No. I played 2 years in World Superbikes was enough for me most of the time.
And how many years have you done been involved with the British Superbikes?
I think I'm in my 3rd season. Coming up my 3rd season, I just finished it.
And what do you think of that scene, the British Super? I mean, I think it's a fantastic championship. I think it's better than the World Superbikes.
It's good racing, it's good to watch, better than World Superbikes. I think that's a bit boring, even though Jonathan Ray's went well, and it's nice to see him win his title again.
And get second in the
sports
personality
for motorbikes, and puts us back on the map a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was amazing that really, because I mean they had a campaign in Motorcycle News to try and get behind him, to get him. Because I mean, most of the people there, a lot of the public wouldn't know who the heck he was, and for that BBC Sports Personality of the year, the big favourite was Anthony Joshua, the boxer. Yeah. And he came about 6th, and the other favourite was Lewis Hamilton, who was winning his 4th Formula 1 world title. So you'd think he'd be way ahead of a road racer, and a lad from Ireland, Jonathan Ray. He came 2nd, and Lewis Hamilton was at 4th. And I know he's maybe not that popular, but he's
brilliant for motorbike, and it just put us back on the map.
Yeah,
it looks good, doesn't it?
2nd in that, I mean, marvellous really, because I mean, they don't get BBC, don't cover.
Well, Fogarty was maybe the last one up there, wasn't he? He was well up in there.
Yeah, Fogarty, yeah. Well, they got behind him when he was in the jungle with the...
they did.
The motorcycle fraternity got behind Carl Fogarty and voted for him to be... to win that I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here in the Jungle.
Right.
Daft stuff as it is, but I mean, it still promotes motorcycling.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah.
Because we've not really had anybody since the days of Barry Sheen with a personality sort of thing. What's Shaky Byrne like?
Brilliant.
I like him. I think he said, well, he comes across
well. He's really good with the public, and he's good to work alongside, and he's better than what he comes across on telly, so he's just a good all-round. There's a lot of time for everybody that comes to speak to him. He's not big-headed. I think Birdie's team will be missing when he decides to retire.
Because Paul Bird spotted him quite early on, I think, because I was reading about Steve Hislop recently, and Steve Hislop won with Bird. I think the British Superbikes, I don't think they really got on, but he won with him, and he knew that he was going to, at the end of the season, he was going to get rid of Steve Hislop because he wanted to bring a young rider on, and that young rider was Shaky Byrne. And Shaky Byrne, before he'd won anything, and before Paul Bird picked him up, he was riding a Suzuki in British Superbikes. I think it had been the ex-works Suzuki that Jamie Whittam had ridden in World Superbikes the year before. But Birdie took him on, and he you know, the rest is history really, isn't it? And then they've had such a record, and Paul Bird's probably the best manager in one more than anybody in British Superbikes, isn't he?
Yeah, it's you can get the best out of the riders anyhow, even though we have a big budget to maybe rest the teams, but Shakey's the best rider in the paddock, I think.
He is the best rider.
So I think we're going to be struggling when he just decide to retire if I'm still involved.
Is there much help from Italy, Ducati? They have a bloke, somebody comes over, doesn't he?
Yeah, but not as much help as Birdie would like.
Oh, there isn't? No.
They pay for Shakey's team crew chief to come over. Giovanni, he comes over, but he doesn't really get much help financially off Ducati. It's all his own personal money out, a lot of it, and be wiser.
What are they? Are they insurance?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we'll just have a few random subjects now, and just join in as you want. You know, if you've got any opinions on anything. I've got a list here of Northern Centre Scrambles champions, and there's one name crops up quite a lot. 4 or 5 times. Mason Weir.
Yeah.
And there's been on these Facebook sites, there's been a thing out recently about what's happened to Mason Weir, where is he?
He's still about. I see him a couple of times a year.
And then there was
we always have a big banter about his size of him and size of me, which is quite fun because we used to have some good battles.
He'd be a rival, yeah.
And he always try and get him to slow up on what he's eating or what he's drinking or whatever, but it didn't seem to sink in. But we do talk about old times when they do bump into him and the battles we had locally. And he was a fearsome rider, was Mason. He was always super quick, always giving it all every race. But
pink.
But pink, yeah, his pink gear on, which I thought looked a bit.
Everybody had pink on.
Yeah, well, there was a bit of a fashion, yeah. Was he sponsored by Honda Britain, or what team was he on then?
He'd been helped by Honda Britain through his dad's shop and that, I think, yeah. He could do it round here locally, but probably with Mason when he went to the British Championship, he used to freeze. He couldn't raise his game, and you had to raise your game when we went to the championships, otherwise you weren't going to qualify, you weren't going to struggle, score points. Mason was always super fast locally, and then when he went away, sometimes he couldn't, a lot of time he couldn't up his game.
No, that's what Bill Brown used to say. But I mean, you were more involved in the national scene, but he used to say like Norman Barrow of the local riders was the one that could. Well, Mike did well at Mike Barnes, who was here, did well at the British Championship round, but they couldn't all go down south and do it. Could have? Norman could do it. He could mix it, but it probably a bit different mentality. He didn't want to be overawed by these big names, sort of thing. I don't know what it would be, but there is a film on YouTube of a BBC grandstand. I think it's 1987, Early Birds Motocross, and Mason, it's in mud at Canada Heights in Kent, and Mason Weir, he's absolutely flying, and he catches thought, passes him, and he's pulling away like him. It's unbelievable how he's going, and then he piles it up at the side of the track, crashes, and even Buddy Walker says, well, I knew that was going to happen, this wasn't going to, he wasn't going to win, he was going to crash it, and he looked like a world beater for about 3 laps, and then it all went wrong really.
I remember that day well. I think I could have been riding one of Bill's Makos that day actually.
And the one who did come good in that meeting, who was chasing Thorpe right to the end, was Jared Smith on a Kawasaki, and he got right close to Thorpe on the finishing line. But,
no, if you see Mason Weir now, you'd have to take a double take because he's a big lad, to say the least.
Yeah, well, there's been stuff on these Facebook sites saying where is he, what's happened to him, and there's all these stories about when they used to go abroad and into meetings, and they all say, well, last time I saw him, he was talking to these ladies of the night, sort of thing, and then he's come back on Facebook. He says, I'm here, and he says, I'm a 10-stone virgin. Paul Bird says 110 stone, circumnavigates all the country. But he drives wagons, doesn't he? Is that what he does?
Yeah, he's driving wagons at the moment. I think he's actually maybe doing a bit of work for Birdie, I think, on the chicken shit side.
Right. I just mentioning these Facebook sites. If anybody goes on them, there's a guy from I thought he might come today. Actually, Peter Campbell from Whitehaven. I don't actually know Peter, but he runs one of these Facebook sites where people get involved in their opinions or whatever. And there's two of them. There's one that's post 1975, which is was it scrambling, was it motocross, 70s, 80s, and some 90s. Is it scrambling? Well, he says, was it scrambling? That's the one. And then there's the pre-75 one, which is run by Ian Berry, that writes the books, and he's bringing one out about Jeff Smith, which is going to promote it, Telford Show. He's written one on the TV scrambles. He's written one on British champions, and he's a school teacher in Portugal, Ian Berry, and he runs the pre-75 one, which is riders who raced motocross when it was road motocross, when it was called scrambling. So those are the two sites, and you get there's Paul Hunt comes on, and John Banks is on them, Brian Way. Well, they used to say about Ivan Miller. Where's he gone? And somebody said he's now a woman. It was Ivana Miller in New Zealand, but I don't think it is. I don't know where that came from.
Look at your fault.
Well, the actual truth is John Bethel said he thought he was. John said he thought it was a woman now.
God bless his soul.
Yeah, I mean that's right, but they're good sites, and some interesting stuff on there really. Just what I was going to say. Old Stuart Bland. He's got supposed to have a funny nickname in here. Something Stuart Bland was on. I don't know if you can say what it is.
I've just been in Macau, China 3 weeks ago. We go over there for 10 or 12 days every year back end to do a road race, Macau Grand Prix. So me and Blandy Jenny go out a little bit earlier than most of the team, set the garage up and unpack the bikes, and we do get in a few positions that we don't really want to go much detail on. You can't talk the language.
No. There's somebody killed in that Macau Grand Prix, wasn't there?
Put a big dampener on it. Not very good, but it's that dangerous, just like the TT or the Manx. But still, the shock when it does happen. Even though we raced with Glen Irwin, it was stopped halfway through, and we possibly wouldn't have won it because our tyre was starting to start to suffer a bit.
Glen Irwin's part of the Irwin Irish lot.
Yeah, part of the motocross.
Graham Irwin, who's British motocross champion.
That's his brother.
Yeah.
So that family's got a lot of good motorbikers in it.
We'll just go on to the subject. What do people think of? Well, we sort of touched on it. The current classic and twin shock scene. I know with the classics. Have you ever ridden? I mean, obviously when you started in schoolboys, it was classic. It was 75, but you haven't ridden a classic.
No.
But I mean, the classic and twin shock scene? I think the classic scene in Scotland and overall, we're generally struggling a little bit really. The riders are getting older.
Yeah.
The bikes are not cheap. They're probably not as reliable as the twin shock stuff. And we're struggling for numbers, whereas I don't know whether that's quite the same with the twin shocks. It's strong as it. I think it's pretty. It holds up pretty well.
Yeah, I think there's obviously a lot of it's down to age, isn't it? It's like I'm 50 this time, and I started riding on a twin shock bike. I'm probably the youngest of the original sort of twin shock riders. So, and I'm 50. So I think there's a lot of emphasis now going more to Evo, but I suppose it's like anything else. It's got to just keep, it's about nostalgia at the end of the day, isn't it? I mean, I rode twin shock bikes when I started, so I like twin shock bikes. To me, they've got charisma. And I'm sure that goes on with the dads that's out there now, and the sons are wanting to ride, and they're going and buying them a 250 Evo, like, 250 Kawasaki.
There is a lot of dads and lads competing,
yeah,
so that helps.
If we hadn't got those, we'd be struggling. It's the lads and dads.
I think it's more a family sport than ever, and I think that's the camaraderie thing about it.
It's
And I
friendly,
think
it's good crack and that.
Yeah, and I think it's like Mark was saying about, 70s, 80s, about people helping one another. I mean, I probably carry a lot of spares and stuff. If I can help somebody, I'll help them. And likewise, if I'm short of something, I'll be able to go and get it off somebody. You know what I mean?
And like Mark was saying about, it's not strict neither. It's how many rules is the Durham?
One. Do it.
One rule.
Do as you're told, and you get a freebie too.
Second rule is there isn't any more
Do as you're told. That's it, one rule, yeah.
I think to me, I think where motocross has gone wrong today is the fact that the tracks are absolutely sort of like graded between motors, after the first day, it's a 2-day and all that. I think it's processional because you've got all these jumps that you've got to be doing a certain speed to clear that jump, and you're getting like little jumps on a corner that you ride over. Well, if that corner was open, you get 2 or 3 riders going into that corner trying to pass. That's an opportunity to pass, and I think that's why the twin shock thing and the Evo thing's having a real sort of renaissance, is because it's going back to how it used to be, where it was proper racing. Like Farley, that's a prime example. I mean, that track gets rough.